Hi, this is Ini,
Hey, this is Nangah.
and welcome to Our Take. Today, we're going to give our take on code switching.
If you don't know what code switching is the practice of alternating, my bad, between two or more languages or varieties of a language in conversation.
Yeah, so in this case, we're talking about switching between, regular everyday English and then AAVE, which stands for African American Vernacular English, which is kind of like a dialect of English that African American people tend to use. So, if we're going to talk about when do we code switch, like as Black people, I often code switch when I'm talking to people of authority. For example, if I'm talking to my teacher, I'll code switch, especially if I'm not very friendly with that teacher. I will talk very formally and my voice gets higher. I kind of drop the black accent. Or if I'm talking to certain white friends, I don't use AAVE or my black accent. But when I'm comfortable, usually um, like my Black female friends, I'll use AAV. I'll use all the slang and everything. But what about you?
Yeah, I guess I don't use anyone that's like not black. I will tend not to use AVE just
Mhm.
because I don't know, I just don't feel it doesn't feel natural doing it like that. I mean, I don't know what background anyone comes from, but I just feel more natural talking to other black people,
Yeah, it's kind of like
specifically black women.
mhm.
And
It's like it's just like a kind of like communication for Black people. So when they're non-Black, it's just kind of weird to me.
yeah,
Yeah,
when I code switch, I guess it's not really to it's to make myself comfortable because I know people code switch sometimes to make others comfortable or not seem like not like a threat. Because I know when people that are not black hear AAVE, they think that, oh my gosh, it's a threat, it's whatever. Because
yeah,
I mean, it's known to be. Some people think it's aggressive, but I don't know. You have to grow up around it.
yeah,
But I just switch out of it because I really don't want the problems. I'm just like, okay, well, you won't understand where I'm coming from, so let me just keep this easy for me.
yeah. That's what I wanted to say. It's like when I'm using AAVE towards non-Black people, or I just feel like I come off as threatening. It's like,
Aggressive, yeah.
yeah, aggressive, like that come up as the stereotype for Black woman, uh let's say aggressive, ghetto, this and that. So it's like I want to, and it's like even when you of course you're expected to speak like formal formally in like workplaces and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, if I want to get this job or I want to get this opportunity or whatever, I can't be like, nah, that's all right, or I'm gonna do this or this and that. So it's even though I use AAVE when I'm comfortable around people, it's kind of a way of making when I switch out of it, it's kind of a way of making other people comfortable around me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the opposite for me. It's for me making myself not because
Mm.
I don't like problems. I don't care if you're comfortable or not because sometimes I'll just slip out and I'm just like, oh well. But I just don't want people to be I just don't want to be looked like in some way. Because like you can still use your dialect and be professional. Like I feel like it's a social construct that says that AAVE is not professional. You can still use AAVE and still like have a professional like outlook. But in our society, it's completely use this dialect that like
You're
yeah.
ghetto, yeah. And that's just because, the prejudice, the racism that Black people face. So anything that's like attached to them is going to be viewed negatively. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel unless there's more Black people in the workforce, in places of power, and in the higher ups and everything, I feel like using AAVE like as a dialect or whatever will be more accepted within your
Yeah.
workplace or whatever.
It's really all about representation because I mean people don't hear AAVE every day. Like it's not something that you would hear unless like you would listen to like Black people in media or you're in Black communities. So the fact that they don't hear it every day, like they think it's odd. It's like a different language to them.
Yeah.
So it's not like looked great upon. But I do agree that if like more people got those higher positions or were just more like um popular in society, then more people would understand that it's just a dialect, just like any other dialect.
Yeah. It reminds me, there's a show I was watching. It was by Issa Rae. You know her, I forgot the name of the show. But Insecure, Insecure is the name of the show. And there was this girl in the workplace. She was going to they had like, I believe they worked in a law firm. So it wasn't like she was meeting a higher up or anything. But what happened was she would just use AAVE casually, talking to anybody in the workplace, right?
Right.
And it was like her work mates or whatever, or work friends or whatever.
Co-workers.
Yeah, her co-workers. She would talk to them using AAVE. And then like the other Black girl at the workplace, like she's the only other Black person was there. She was like, hey girl, maybe you shouldn't use AAVE here because you know how white people are, non-Black people are. They're gonna, like, at first when they were laughing at it, right? They were, enjoying the way she talked, whatever. They thought it was funny. So she pulled her over. She was like, hey girl, I think it's better if you stop that now because you know how people are. They're gonna say it's unprofessional, whatever. And the girl, she was like, nah, this is the way I talk. I'm gonna keep talking like that. And so she did. But when, even despite what they told her, the higher ups called her into was it an office, and they were like, we feel that the way you're talking or the way you're acting is not proper workplace behavior, and they basically fired her because she's using AAV. So
damn, that's I mean, like the fact that happened in the show, that means it happens in reality too.
Yeah.
With people getting fired because of how they speak. I personally think if you can understand what that person is saying, like it's a dialect, but still English. So like if you could understand what that person is trying to say, then I feel like there shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. Okay. So now we can talk about what the history behind AAVE. It's kind of important before you go into other points, like where did this originate from? Why do Black people use it today and whatever? So, as we know,
slavery.
Slavery. I'm sorry for slavery. As when they brought slaves over here, they weren't afforded the opportunity to be educated. Yeah. So, and they weren't, Africa, they didn't speak English over there, obviously not. So
yeah.
They had all their little tribal languages and everything. And they came up here, and when they were, in the fields, in the house, whatever type of slave they were, basically had to pick up English, right?
Yeah.
And so they weren't formally taught. So they kind of developed a form of English that, other slaves understood or whatever. And, it kind of, you hear it heavily in the South because that's where a lot of slavery
Most slavery was, yeah.
So, as time has passed from slavery, even, because of segregation and Jim Crow, which was only like
60 years ago.
Right, 60 years ago. And people were segregated in these communities, and it wasn't like things magically got better for Black people after they left the plantation. They were still kind of secluded together. So that form of English is going to still be kept, and it's going to be passed on to Black people and so on.
It's kept, it's passed on, and it's changed because language changes as you go on.
Yeah.
Even like non-AAVE language will change. So as language changes and you add new things to this dialect, you just have a bigger way of expressing your I don't want to say your Blackness, but your Blackness.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to be Black and speak AAVE. Some Black people grew up around more suburban white areas, and that's fine. But most likely, or a lot of Black people will tend to grow up in places where that Black vernacular is widely used.
And I think it's important to note that, like you said, not all Black people use AAVE because, Black people, they're not a monolith. They're not all going to act the same, but they are united by their race because of the shared experiences they've had. Specifically, African Americans have had in America. So that's just important to know. So now we could talk about the digital blackface that really brought code switching and the use of AAVE to attention, especially on TikTok, where people like digital blackface, if you don't know, is basically when people come off as Black on social media. And because, social media, it can be faceless in a lot of cases. So they use words like finna, or I'm Jai-like, or, all this AAVE. And then they come out and then it's a white person. You're like, hold on.
Pause.
Right. See, like Kimberly, you're not supposed to be talking like that. Like,
oh my Lord. Yeah. I mean, there's been some instances where like I think people are like Black or whatnot. And once because of like how they like comment or whatever on people's pages, and then once I actually click their profile, all I see is no, it's not a Black person for sure.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like, it's surprising because I don't know, there's so much like things against, like prejudice against Black people and how they speak. I really am surprised when people want to use that vernacular. Yeah. And I'm just like, when did it start becoming cool? Like people actually, like, I guess, like you said earlier, people actually lose their jobs over this.
Right. So it was like, it's especially surprising when you see it's like Kelsey from Seattle using AAVE, knowing very well Kelsey did not grow up in a Black neighborhood. She didn't grow up with people. And now she's doing it to appeal to people on the internet, because, as you know, Black culture has had a huge impact on pop culture and therefore social media and all that stuff. So a lot of younger people will use AAVE even though they haven't grown up with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things like people like, and I quote, people talking like they are from the hood. And I don't like, when I first heard people say that, like, I'm gonna talk like I'm from the hood, I'm just like, no one from the hood wants to be in the hood.
Yeah, the hood is not,
like, you romanticize the hood so much that you don't even understand what the hood is. Like, it's just like, why would you do such things? Like, now I'm middle class now, but like I wasn't always middle class. Like, I came from a studio apartment to a house, so that's whatever. But for you to be living in the suburbs in a 3-bedroom, 8-bathroom house for your whole life and be like, I'm hood, I'm just like, you
No,
don't want to be hood and you're not.
right. Like you're living your good life, like accept it. Like I don't understand why
Like,
you
good life.
and the thing is that especially when they use AAVE incorrectly because
It's
it will
forced.
right. And it's like at first it's just maybe regular everyday kids on TikTok saying, oh, period as F or I'm finna about to go, something like that, you know? And then you see like advertise because they want to appeal to the youth. Advertising companies, they'll use AAVE incorrectly. And it's like the other day, I saw, was it McDonald's replying to somebody or whatever, and they were like, because period. Like McDonald's was using it incorrectly, and I was like, oh, and it's like now it's like I want to say it's like
Mocking?
gentrifying.
I feel like it's mocking people and gentrifying just because, like, I don't know. I don't walk here speaking like other dialects just to speak like other dialects. Like, I'm not from that place, so I wouldn't speak like that. So the fact that you guys are just like taking this dialect and just like throwing it everywhere, not even like paying attention to how you're using it, it's just like, what if you say the wrong thing?
Right. Exactly. So it's like so that brings us to the question like, should non-Black people be able to use AAVE?
Honestly, I could not really. I don't really care as much, just because of the fact that people already use it, so I can't really do anything about that. People will take things that's like, cultural appropriation. That's a different topic for another, podcast. But people will continue to take things and not know like the meaning behind it. So like at this point, I'm just like, okay, I will look at you sideways though. But I mean, if you grew up around it, then I guess that's fine with me. Just because like you, just how like Black people will grow up in the suburbs and speak quote unquote proper, not non-Black people will grow up in like not like impoverished places and use that vernacular. So
But actually, I feel like that dynamic is a bit different because if you're a Black person going into a white neighborhood, that's looked at as better, right? You're just kind of, it's like kind of moving up, right? And so it's like you're adopting. It's like,
but it's only moving up because that's how society.
yeah.
Don't think that because you're in a white neighborhood you're on it, you've reached the top. That's just because like society is that way.
It's like, but if you're a Black person and let's say you go to the hood and you go to a white neighborhood, and then you speak proper, that's co-assimilation switching, and that's considered assimilation, cultural assimilation. But if a white person is gone from the suburbs and they're going to the hood and they start speaking AAVE,
but
that's not cultural. That's not. I wouldn't say that's cultural assimilation because they're like, that's not the dominating culture. That's not what they need to survive. Outside that Black community, they'll never need it.
Well, here's my thing with that. I mean, like, your environment shapes you no matter what. That's just like scientifically proven to be true. So like, I mean, if you watched Bring It On, like I forgot which Bring It On movie, but one of the white girls, she has to like go into, the more poor Black and brown neighborhoods. And I mean, you can't just be like, hey, Bethany, oh my gosh, like just walking around that kind of like neighborhood there. So like she learned how to at least like get into more of the culture. But like while she was learning how to like use that vernacular, she also did learn the culture behind it because they would teach her things about Black, brown culture, whatever. So I feel like you just have to work with what your environment is, because, and that's even different from like a Black person that didn't grow up in the hood at all or from those places at all, and a white person that didn't grow up in the suburbs at all, and they were just in that area at that time. So I feel like if your environment pushes you to be a certain person, then no one can really change that about you. Like you can, you know, you might be a white person may be able to survive like that outside of that area, but while being in that area, I feel like it's kind of inevitable to not use that language. Especially like take learning another language for a second. Like if we're learning Korean, right? If we're in Korea, then we're gonna use like dialects that Korean people use. We're not gonna use, you know, our own or whatever.
I mean, like you said, if we're learning Korean, we go to Korea, and then we're gonna use like
Like
Korean slang without.
if you live in like Busan for like years and years, you're gonna end up, having a Busan accent. It's inevitable.
But the big difference between um having to, like, white people having to speak Black, having to speak AAVE, or going to Korea and then having to speak a different dialect to kind of fit in. It's like none of those dialects or whatever were ever used against people. It's just like, oh, I'm from there, so I speak like that.
I mean, yeah.
But and it's like, um and there's like the issue of like, should we gatekeep AAVE? At one point, I was just like you said, I can't stop everybody from using it. It's kind of becoming a pop culture thing, sadly. And it's like, um, for me, I was like, okay, I don't really care too much as long as it doesn't come off as cringy or you're using it incorrectly, you know? But the more I think about it, the more it's like, of course, I can't stop everyone from using. The more I just like, it's kind of, I'm kind of repelled to the idea of non-Black people using it, and I guess it's becoming more and more common. And I guess there are white people who grew up in Black communities, who were born and raised there, Black communities, and I guess, I don't know what to say to that, but there are white people who are raised in Black communities, to go to Black schools, but then they go home and then their parents don't use AAVE. They talk formally. And I believe, even though you spend a lot of time with your school and everything, a lot of where you become as a person before you go out in the world is at home with your family, and they shape your language and how you interact with people. So it's kind of just like, um, I feel like, uh, as a white person, to fit into a Black community, you don't need to change your vernacular or your dialect to fit in, because it's like, we know you're white. We can see that. It's like, um, if you just like, I feel like if you just talk to me as a decent human being, you're not being racist. You're not using all those little microaggressions. Then I'm fine with that. It's like, you don't need to, I don't know, get to my level and speak like, oh, stop using AAVE to communicate with me, because no matter what, I'm still going to understand you. Whereas if I go to a Black white community and I start using AAVE, they're not going to understand me. So, and that's the thing that Black people have. Like, no matter what, if I speak formally, if I speak AAVE, they're going to understand both, because that's the world we have to live in. White people, most of them will be detached from uh, are detached from the Black community, so they don't have to understand AAVE, you know. So I don't think that's something, like, especially if it's not something they were born or raised doing. That's not something they should be or have to be doing. I mean, I guess there are special cases like white kids who were adopted by Black families and whatever.
I also think that it depends on who you're with, because Black communities around America are not always the same. They're like, you personally, you wouldn't want them to speak in that vernacular, but I know some people that like be like, why do you speak like that? Or you're in our turf now, so you should speak like this. So I feel like it's based on who they're talking to. I feel like that's for everyone too.
I haven't seen Black people ask a white person why they're talking that way, because it's kind of like a given. Like,
personally,
you're white, of course you need to talk like that. I mean, I guess unless they're like, oh, they're kind of like friends and they want you to speak AAVE, that's kind of his own case then. But it's like, commonly, I don't really see Black people be like, oh, talk AAVE to me, like, because I can't.
I mean, not like that, but like, if you're like in a space, I guess, where there's a lot of Black people, like, if you're speaking, like, I guess with your proper white accent or whatever they call it, they're gonna look at you sideways. But like, if you like change it up, then it's like, bro, whatever. But like I said, it depends on who the person is and where that person is. But yeah, I personally, if you're gonna speak AAV to me, then just watch out, because I might look at you like, oh, what? Okay. But
yeah,
you know, that's just the world. That's just how it is, honestly.
So do you agree that we should gatekeep AAVE? And
When it comes to gatekeeping, I like gatekeeping my things.
right,
Because I'm just like, if you don't gatekeep things, then people start to lose the value of where that thing is and the meaning behind that thing. So like,
yeah,
everyone
exactly.
using the same thing, like, America's already supposed to be like a land of different cultures at that. All this simulation or this like wanting to just fit in with this and taking that culture and doing this with that, and I'm just like, but you can like learn about a culture and leave it be. But the fact that you guys are taking cultures and just you're losing the history behind it and then making it into something that it's not, that's where I draw the line. That's where I'm like, gatekeep if you want to. And that goes for not even just the Black community, that goes for like any community ever. If you want to gatekeep your things, then gatekeep that, because at the end of the day, if you don't want your culture to be lost in this mumbo jumbo, then I feel like gatekeeping is necessary.
I feel like I do agree. I do believe in stuff like cultural exchange, but I don't believe that people should start adapting other people's cultures, just fitting it to their taste or whatever.
Because, oh yeah, definitely. Like, that's like, if people,
right, because those
cultures, you can like learn somebody's culture and understand it. Doesn't mean you have to take it and call it home. Like, right. Like, I'm learning Korean just to learn Korean.
And like, learning language, it gives you insight into other people and everything. So let's say a white person they can go to, I guess, they can open a textbook and learn about Black people. That's all I'm gonna say. They don't need to. I'm just saying, like,
I don't have a problem with people asking me like about my culture. Like, I'm Cameroonian. People don't really about Cameroonian culture. Like, if they ask me, what should I do in Cameroon? I'm like, all right, we do this, we do that, and we have these customs. But if I see you doing those customs on your own time, I'm gonna look at you sideways, like I said. All right. I'm like, hold up. We can end it here. Well, that's it for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. And join us next week where we'll be talking about why Valentine's Day sucks. It's the worst. Worst holiday ever. Yeah. And see you guys later. Bye, all.
Bye.